welcome back. This is the third consecutive week of the Four Hauntsmen. Can we stop having so much fun now? This is like a record for us. We're back.
It really is.
The friendly voice of Paul.
Hey, hey.
We've got Joey in the house.
Hey, hey, hey.
And we have our official fifth hauntsman, Johnny the Bronto from HauntScene.
What's up, everybody? It's good to be back on the Four Hauntsmen, the fifth Hauntsman.
Except kind of like the fourth.
Yeah.
Fourth, fifth.
The fourth,
we can't
fifth.
count.
You just come off the bench.
Let's get ready for a walk-off home run here. We're talking local haunts today. We're talking Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Howl-O-Scream, a little Six Flags, a little Halloween Horror Nights, and a good healthy dose of local haunts. Road Trip, Florida edition. I think we're going to lead off with a little bit of Busch Garden Williamsburg magic, Howl-O-Scream.
Yeah, so this past week, I had mentioned on, I think, last episode or maybe 2 episodes ago that Busch Gardens had kind of scrapped the majority of their opening weekend, including the media event for Howl-O-Scream. Well, the rescheduled media event was earlier last week. I actually have the video on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ideology of madness. And we got to see, they really wanted to focus on 3 things. They wanted to focus on the control lab, which I had briefly mentioned in a previous episode. So the control lab is, if you're in Williamsburg, they have the Fiend show, just like the Busch Gardens Tampa show. I think it's a different show, but it still has like the naughty nurses and stuff like that. But right across from that, they have a bar called the Inoculation Station. And the naughty nurses serve like shots and stuff there. And they converted half of that into the control lab. And the way it works is that there are like buttons that'll trigger either an animatronic or a sound or different things in the houses, but not just there. They actually have, and I don't know if you guys have this in Tampa, but they convert the maps over to Howl-O-Scream maps for Busch Gardens Williamsburg. So during the day, it's regular Busch Gardens. During the night, it's Howl-O-Scream, and they have maps that convert to the Howl-O-Scream map, but some of them are on monitors, like giant TV screens, and some of the buttons will actually like cause a jump scare at those TV screens while people are looking at the maps, kind of thing. So it's fun. I mean, we tested it during the day when the park was closed, so I didn't get to get the enjoyment of scaring anybody, but it's a fun idea, and it's cheap. It's cheaper than, playing one of those carnival games or anything like that. And
Yeah, so... Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, Paul did an amazing video for his channel with the details behind, like, the triggers and things like that. But the one thing that jumps out at me again, Busch Garden Williamsburg, Howl-O-Scream, so much better than Tampa Howl-O-Scream at this point.
I gotta say, this is their 20th year, and they did a really good job this year. The Vault 20 house, that's kind of a callback to the previous 20 years of Howl-O-Scream here in Busch Gardens Williamsburg, is a fantastic house. We got to see that with the lights on. And they took us through Demented Dimensions, which you guys had down in Tampa last year. And, we kind of assumed it was a lights on tour. So they've got like their entertainment manager giving us the guided tour. And he's, just kind of like, here's where this is. Here's how we had to change it from Tampa because of the different space. And at one point he's saying, here's where we have like a second story scare, like a scare actor, can jump at you from above type thing. And then the lights cut off, and he's, he like yells out, he's like, Debbie, I'm doing a tour here. Can you cut the lights back on? And then like the music cuts on, and he's like, wrong button. And, and then like a scare actor hopped out of the wall and like pulled him through. And we had to go through the rest of the house as if it was live. And that was a lot of fun. I don't think any of us expected it. I had a fun experience in there. I went opening night, and I wasn't, admittedly, I didn't love Demented Dimensions, but this time going through it, maybe because, they had their best actors on point, and it was just a surprise experience. I really, really enjoyed it. So I'd say this is a good year for Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Sometimes there's not enough new to warrant going every year, but this year they did a good job.
It seems like, when I look at the stuff that you shot, because of the anniversary year, very reminiscent to me of HHN28, with the whole celebration of years gone by and icons gone by and things like that. I just can't believe that it's included in the day park price and it's as good as what it looks like.
Yeah, like I said, you can't get better for the price down here, and especially now they have all these ticket prices. If you just have an annual membership, you get that. You get the Christmas Town, you get all that stuff. And, I'm not shilling Busch Gardens Williamsburg. I've been an annual pass holder for probably since 2007 now. Like, my monthly cost for my annual pass is still grandfathered in, and it's still like $7 a month. And that's why I haven't upgraded yet, because I don't want to lose that price. But it is genuinely a good deal, because you can just go when they open at 10 or noon and, stay through the evening. And Six Flags America is kind of the same way. So similar, I should say, I want to clarify. So I also went to a preview thing for Six Flags America on Friday night, and up in the Maryland side of like Washington DC area. It's in Bowie, Maryland, and we got to check out a couple of their new shows and their new house this year. And they're kind of similar in that the price of the day pass includes you can stay through Six Flags Fright Fest, but there is an upcharge to actually go through the houses. It's like $20-something, I think, to add on the houses. So without that, you can do the scare zones, you can do the shows, but you can't do the houses.
Yeah, we're heading up to Six Flags for the first time for Fright Fest this coming week. At least the one in Georgia. I don't know, Johnny, have you ever been to the Six Flags Fright Fest before? Or Joey?
No. I have not.
Actually, recently, because when I was living in California, I went to the Magic Mountain one, I'm afraid to say this, 20 years ago.
But the Magic Mountain one's like cream of the crop, isn't it? Like, that's one of the best ones out there.
Maybe now.
Yeah.
I remember when I went, it was, I remember the last time I went there, they had an Alice Cooper plow. That's old. It was like an Alice Cooper maze behind the Batman ride, and it really made me second guess my taste in music for a couple hours. But
that's where the Encino Man house is too, right?
What? Encino Man
out there. Encino Man, Magic Mountain.
Oh yeah, they use Viper. Yeah, that's the red one.
So yeah, Six Flags. It's the website. And Paul and I have talked about this offline. Incredibly confusing. We bought tickets this year, the Cheap Seats family, and it includes what I perceive to be Fright Fest, and I would assume that Fright Fest would be the same thing as hey, it includes Howl-O-Scream, or hey, it includes Halloween Horror Nights. But the concept behind Fright Fest, for anybody that doesn't know, because this was a learning curve for me, is that Fright Fest is basically the scare zones that you're getting included in your ticket for free. But if you want to go to the houses are a separate charge, and then they offer different house packages. Like the general admission wait, however long for a house, and I think they even advertise that the wait time is going to be at least 30 minutes for each house that you go in, and then there's like a express and then like super express, I think, for the houses, and it runs up to like $50 per person per night or something like that.
Yeah. And so I had mentioned that when we went to Busch Gardens Williamsburg, they wanted to showcase their new stuff. And, Six Flags America, kind of like Busch Gardens for you guys and Busch Gardens here. And I guess, honestly, I guess most theme parks other than Universal Studios, they repeat the majority of their event from year to year, right? They swap out a house here, a house there. If they're feeling really feisty, they'll swap out a couple of houses from year to year. But for the most part, at least half of the event, if not more, is carried over from year to year. And so Six Flags America, they wanted to showcase their new shows. So they had a new stunt show. So we only got to see a portion of that. But they had, and I'm going somewhere with this, so give me a second. So they had a show called Flesh, and so the PR lady introduced the show. She says, "Hey, because people had brought their families, had brought like young kids with them as guests to this event, just want you to know." The show's a little risque. You're welcome to take your kids outside. We'll do face painting, that kind of thing. But just wanted to warn you, the show's a little risque. And so, if the video's on the channel, but if you look at it, it's risque in that they're wearing lingerie, dancing, a little provocatively. But for the most part, it's just a dance show to like modern dance music, modern dance hits. Talented dancers. It's not particularly a scary show. There's no story behind it or anything. It's about a 20-minute dance show, basically. But then they brought us over to their other new show, which is called Cursed. I think Cursed 2. So I guess at some point there was a previous Cursed. But we got to see during the day they have Cursed, and the lady said, "Hey, during the day we have Cursed, and at night we have Cursed After Dark, and I just want you to know, Cursed is G-rated, Cursed After Dark is R-rated, and just want to warn you guys, you're going to see the Cursed After Dark version." And after when she referred to the previous show as risque, I was like, this is nothing. This is just going to be, this is just another warning, but it won't be anything. There'll be maybe a little, some dirty humor, that kind of thing. Well, one, the show's 30 minutes long. So just be warned, you're spending a significant amount of time there. But two, and most importantly, there are as many F-bombs in that 30 minutes as there are in any Quentin Tarantino movie I've ever seen. Like, the first time that someone dropped an F-bomb, it was within, like, the first 30 seconds. And I'm like, no, I didn't hear that right. And then, like, within the first 5 minutes, they say it at least a dozen times of the show. And then proceed, like, their sentences that they say the F word 3 times in the same sentence. I mean, it is excessively profane. And I'm not a prude by any means, but it was very unexpected. Because, the event itself isn't restricted to 17 and older. So going into a show in what's normally a family theme park, regardless of how you feel about kids going to Halloween Horror Nights or Fright Fest or Howl-O-Scream or any of those events, it was still kind of surprising to have a 30-minute show laden with the F word. Like, my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, oh my God, what am I watching? Like, I was just like, I came out of that with PTSD. But then we got to see their new house, Total Damnation, which was awesome. They did Six Flags. I will say their strength. They don't necessarily have a ton of money, on the scale of money. I think Busch Gardens, it's probably like Universal Studios, Busch Gardens, and then Six Flags under them, as far as money that they contribute to these type of events. And Cedar Fair is probably somewhere in there as well. But for the houses that at Six Flags, I genuinely enjoy the houses at most of this at the Six Flags America, at least the ones that I've been to in years past, and I gotta say they stepped up their game on this one. It was really well done. But Curse 2 After Dark, just know what you're in for. You're gonna be there for a while, and you're gonna hear the F word a lot.
I like F word shows.
Well, does Chucky say the F word yet at Halloween Horror Nights?
No, he doesn't.
He made it fun.
Such a transition. Chucky has the restraining bolt almost all the way off, but I do want to go back to that Six Flags thing, though, because we skipped over one thing that seemed to light up social media last week, which was the coffin challenge. And I think you got to test out one of the coffins when you were at Six Flags as well. But the coffin challenge to me seems like more of like a vacation challenge, right? You're in basically like kind of like a bed for 30 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's far from comfortable. So, they had, and I don't know if this was, I think they may have announced it after we recorded last, that originally it was just going to be, I think, at 2 of the Six Flags parks, but now it's at all of them. And so Six Flags America, you know, when we were there, they said, hey, we're doing the Coffin Challenge also. Well, so they asked for volunteers before they even announced it, and I kind of figured that's where they were going. So I just like jumped up and went for it. And they said, you know, these guys are going to test out the coffins. And so, you know, they're doing it at Six Flags America. I got to lie down in the coffin for a little bit. And it's not comfortable. It's wood. You know, it's not like it's cushioned. It's not like an actual coffin. When they say
tell you that you have to bring your own, like, sleeping bag to fit inside of it.
Yeah, because it is, you know, it's just it's wood. You know, it's not a real coffin with big cushy stuff inside of it. No, it's wood. You know, and it is open, which I didn't realize. So, you know, there's the front of it covers up to probably about midway on your chest. So you're open. You can see people and talk to people and that kind of thing. You can't have your phone or anything with you. But you
see, one of the press releases that they said they would have charging stations for phones.
Oh, well,
isn't that the crazy thing? I mean, like, I took it as, like, you know, you get a bathroom break for 6 minutes every hour on the hour. They give you breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks, I think. Huh. And then they had a charging station, and you're basically laying there for 30 hours. Like, and then they pay you $300 for doing this, and free tickets and, like, VIP stuff and goodies for
like,
accomplishing the challenge.
It'd be the perfect time to have the flu or, like, a really bad cold. So you can just, like, sleep in that thing all day and watch Netflix knowing your phone's not going to die and you got free food. You don't even have to leave.
So the lady told us that we weren't allowed the phone, but maybe you can't have it but maybe you can set it up on top of the coffin. I don't know. Like, it's, you know, it's certainly, having laid in it, it seems doable. And I don't know how, you know, how it works. Like, is it like an elimination challenge? Like, if you quit, you're out? Or, you know, like, what if they pick 2 people? Because I think every park has 2 people.
Who would quit it?
Exactly. I mean, what if both finish?
I could sleep in there for like a week straight. What do you call? I mean, dude, come on. Especially if you can have your phone.
I get someone to leave that room. If it's last man standing, yeah, 30 hours. Mm-hmm.
With the tricks.
Oh my God.
30 minutes. Well, one big question, though, I don't know if they answer this, but when all's said and done with the coffins, do they just leave the bodies and move the tombstones, or what's going on?
Yet another transition back to Halloween Horror Nights.
Right?
So
someone got that good.
So Halloween Horror Nights happenings this week, and 75% of us have been there over the last week. Paul will be down to experience Halloween Horror Nights and all of its crowded goodness next week.
Yes.
Good times.
But, you know, a couple things. Like, I have not made it out to Halloween Horror Nights as often as I thought I would so far this year. And, you know, but the funny thing is, like, when Joey and I were leaving last night, you know, we looked at each other and said, like, you know, it's going to be October 1st in a couple of hours. And there's still 4 more weeks of Halloween Horror Nights to go through. And, you know, it feels like we've been doing this now for months, but it's only been 3 weeks, although I guess 3 weeks is a long time. Chucky, we've been pretty critical of that scare zone on this show and in the Cheap Seats videos for the last couple of weeks, because we felt it was more of like a PG type Chucky. I will say that I stood in front of Chucky on the way into the park yesterday, and he verbally berated me. He called a woman that was standing next to me a streetwalker. He did everything except for drop F-bombs. So it's, you know, I think the restraining bolt that we talked about with him and needing to let him loose, he's almost there, you know, and he's doing more damage now. Have you watched him lately, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, I did see the video of him yelling at the guy with the young girl, like the daughter.
Yeah.
About how he's a bad father and it's past the girl's bedtime. I thought that was kind of cute. I haven't sat and watched Chucky since like the first weekend when he berated us for being YouTubers, which was kind of funny. But no, I mean, I definitely gravitated more towards walking through the scare zone a lot more. But I haven't. I need to sit through Chucky maybe Wednesday.
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining. At least the actual puppet part. The other pieces of it are still a little hit and miss, I think.
I see.
Whoever's doing it should just go.
I see a lot of people complaining about the getting blasted with water.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me tell you, like, what is up with that? Between the monkeys and then the new thing with the operation, I mean, people are walking around, like, either holding their phones, I guess, or maybe cameras or drinks, and, you know, getting a drink full of, you know, a nice, like, $12 beer full of recycled water from the street or whatever, pumping through those things.
Yeah, I got blasted pretty good trying to take a picture of one of the barrel monkeys. I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's that's not a scare thing. That's a, you know, dude, come on, like, type of thing. You know, it's I feel like it's coming into its own though. You know, on the flip side, I think the Twisted Tradition Zone, it still looks gorgeous, but I'm not. I think we've probably walked through that more often than the other zones because you always kind of go past that way to get to the back of the park. And I don't really see too many people scaring anybody in that zone. And I still think it's because the costumes must be like bobbleheadish where it's too top heavy and they can't move too well. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of scares still in many of the scare zones. I see them, you know, like they're very picture and video populated at this point, especially Killer Klowns. I mean, you know, God, I was complaining last night about the lighting in Killer Klowns. It seems like they made that so much darker than it was the first week that the zone was open. But I'm thinking maybe they did that to discourage so many people stopping for pictures and video to make them come out not as well. But
they're also really big and they have nowhere to hide except those little doorways.
Completely get it. So the houses, you know, I still haven't done a house ranking, and I think it would take too much time to do a complete house ranking here, but they continue to kind of slide up and down the scale the more that we go through the houses. You know, I was in love with Dead Exposure the first week, and now that's kind of fallen towards the bottom. And I'm in love with Poltergeist, except we had a really bizarre run last night where you could see all of the puppeteers like in their boo holes for some reason. And Joey had to call it out, like, you know, look at that guy in the white outfit. You know, what do you think? What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, you were there. Those Yetis took some, like, I don't know what they were on last night, but they scared the crap, all three of them. And I've been through that maze like 5 times. I know where they are, and they just got like roid rage or something because they were just almost like on top of me, like screaming, and I was terrified. You saw that. So
a lot of cinema.
Yeah, that's my, like, I think that's my number one. I don't know, especially after last night.
What do you think, Johnny? You like Slaughter Cinema?
I do. I love the critters part, man. I'm in love with the little critters. They're amazing.
I love that. And then the big critter.
And the big critter. I got to get a picture of the little one with the top hat and the monocle at some point. I guess I got to be that guy and sneak that picture. But yeah, man, I tend to do Slaughter Cinema. I've been spending a lot of time in the back of the park. Like, I've probably done the houses in the back of the park at least probably 3 or 4 times for every one that I've done in the sound stages. So just because I mean, I've only done Stranger Things like once this whole run on the media night. So yeah, but no, I love Dead Exposure, but man, you can't go in there when the sun's out. So yeah.
The last time that Joey and I went through there, it wasn't sun out either, but it seemed like the majority of the actors weren't even in the house. Like I don't think it was a cast change. I mean, I don't know. It seemed like there was more cardboard people in there than there were the actual actors scaring.
Maybe they're just slowly kind of transitioning them out.
Yeah, it could be. We could have just had a bad spot there. But are you gifted with Express this year? Or
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Once you taste the dark side, man, you gotta do it. There's no going back.
No peasants anymore.
Yeah.
I only asked because when you said you didn't go to the front sound stages, I was thinking, like, this has been the year, if you're listening to this and you have not gone to Halloween Horror Nights, this is what we've talked about for years leading up to this, and that the event was gaining more and more in popularity. And when people ask, like, do you need Express? And, I still see people posting all the time on Facebook and Twitter, like, hey, I managed to do every house like 53 times tonight before 5 o'clock, before the gates opened up, because
Awesome.
I just was magical, and I did it without Express. And I think, more power to you. I can't see it being done. Like, we were there last night and everything again was 45 minutes to 95 minutes, or 100 minutes. And it's just packed every time that we go. We haven't gone on a Wednesday. I guess maybe that's the trick, but
Wednesdays, man.
I can see that ending though soon because everyone keeps talking about it.
Yeah, well, at some point it's just going to get insane. So.
Yeah, and I think I tweeted out last night, like, I could do without ever hearing "Shoot to Thrill" again. I love that Vamp Zone. It's so campy, photo wise. I'm starting to see some of the characters drop off. Like, I didn't see Boy George walking around the last couple times that we were there. Which, by the way, your co-host asked us or pulled me aside the last time that we were at the park, like during the week, Joey and I, and she asked who Boy George was. So I felt like I was a million years old at that point because she had to make a point of telling me she was a 90s kid. And I love Melissa. But
Melissa? Yeah.
But
I saw Boy George last night.
Oh, okay. I mean, I definitely felt like I was about like 90.
Yeah, she's like, I love the 80s. I'm like, that's cool. There's a difference between, and then like, I'm not, and I know this discussion kind of comes up every once in a while, but there is a little bit of a difference between growing up in the 80s and loving the 80s, being at your 90s or a millennial or something like that, or after 2000. But yeah, they'll never know what it's like to wait for that NES cartridge to come out or something like that, that new tape, that new cassette tape.
Yeah. And I will say,
remember Blockbuster Music?
Yep.
If you guys listened to it before you bought it.
Media Play.
Yeah.
That might have been 90s.
There is one other thing that just popped into my head, like as we were thinking about the Vamp Zone, that I almost feel like it shouldn't be brought up, but I have to say, because I saw, there's two Michael Jackson kind of characters or tributes that are in the different casts at Vamp. Maybe there's more. I've only seen two. One of them is slightly taller and a little stockier. But HHN tweeted out a picture the other day that said, I think the caption was just like, eat it. And it was the stockier, like Michael Jackson. I was like, what's happening here? Like, that's not funny. So just my own.
You mean like the little ghost of what? Oh, this is what it's like when you walk through somebody's vape cloud.
Yeah, well, it was I think it was more like poking fun at the fact that Michael Jackson was a little bit heavier than the other Michael Jacksons, or the other Michael Jacksons in the other cast. I didn't think it was that great of a thing to post on their behalf.
True.
But I will say this now, so if the Universal folks are listening, the views that are expressed here within are those of Kyle from the Cheap Seats, and not of all of the Four Hauntsmen or other affiliates. But I didn't think that it was a very cool thing for them to post. So.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So you guys are talking about scare zones and
zones.
And zones, so if you're listening to this podcast, so we're recording this on Monday, October 1st, and it's going to release on Tuesday, October 2nd, if I'm lucky. But one of the things I want to mention is that this Friday, October 5th, for you guys who are fans of the Killer Klowns from Outer Space Scare Zone, the directors of Killer Klowns from Outer Space will be there in the Scare Zone on October 5th. And I guess I don't know what they're doing, but they're going to be there. And they also recently announced, we'll see if it actually, comes to fruition, that they are doing the Return of the Killer Klowns from Outer Space in 3D, a sequel to the film. And I think they kind of wanted to announce that in conjunction with the Scare Zone. That news, for me at least, seemed to come under the radar. I just happened to come across it today while looking them up after their announcement that they'd be at HHN this weekend.
Yeah, they've been talking about that for a little bit of time, but I think that they were waiting. My take was they were waiting to get here for like their official PR announcement, and it's funny because the composer of the soundtrack for Killer Klowns, I woke up last week and I got a direct message from the composer on Twitter and on Facebook that was like, I love the perspective that you shot in the scare zone, and it felt like I was there, and I'm going to be there. Like, I think he's there October 24th. So he's not going to be there with the Chiodo brothers. And, I want to be able to use some of your footage, if possible, to include in my announcement video that I'll be there and everything. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And then, probably like an hour later, I saw Emily from Geek Notice post that, like, oh, hey, the composer from Killer Klowns is watching my stuff. And then I saw Travis, the awesome photographer in Orlando. He posted the same thing, like, hey, the composer from Killer Klowns is like commenting on my stuff, and he's kind of getting around. So I think like we've become like this hub for Killer Klowns here, whether it's the Chiodo brothers coming or the composer coming and everything, and it's really remarkable to see it take off.
And the composer's name is John Massari.
Yes.
But, maybe they were just waiting for Universal Orlando to create those costumes to save on budget. So now they can make their movie because they don't have to pay for those costumes.
It was in the contract. It was in the rider.
Yeah, exactly. As long as we get to keep the costumes, you can do whatever you want.
They're going to film the entire movie in Sting Alley.
Hey, things have happened. Yeah.
That's why they were asking to use the footage. That's the movie.
Why does that have a HauntScene watermark at the bottom?
So, moving on from HHN.
I have moved on from HHN.
I got to be honest. It was tough going back to HHN after I know Johnny and I spent some time over, not together, but like one day apart for the most part for some of these local haunts. And you kind of get spoiled because almost all of these local haunts that we go to, there's no conga line. And I think that the one thing that people miss when they are going to Halloween Horror Nights, exclusively is understanding how haunts work and how things can actually be scary. I tend to find that it's not very scary if you're going in a conga line of people and you're seeing the scare happen 10 people or 5 people in front of you, and then the same person pops out again because they're on like a timer. It's not like that at these other local haunts. So, I think both sides here started this road trip this week, or the beginnings of at least the Florida edition. And Johnny and I hit independently Warehouse 31 Unleashed in Jacksonville and 13th Floor in Jacksonville.
Yes.
What did you think?
Oh, man, I love them both. I love them both for different reasons, and they were awesome. I love talking to the people there. Completely different setups. The 13th Floor is a huge company. They own like 16 haunted attractions like all over the U.S., so I'm trying to think of a chain. I just don't want to insult them. I don't want to say like, you're the McDonald's of haunts, or you're the Walmart of haunts, because that's kind of, taken away from it. I'm trying to think of like a good chain that you kind of like, that's like, you're like the Five Guys of haunts or something like that, like something positive. But that haunt was amazing. I did a lights on walkthrough tour, and it was, I do a lot of haunts, and a lot of times when you see them with the lights on, a lot of them are covered up with the show lighting, so to kind of, cover up the blemishes and things like that. And even walking through the house at 13th Gate, even with the lights all the way on, it was just gorgeous and perfect. And the show did not let me down at all. It was a great, great haunt show. It's definitely a step up from even some theme park haunts that I've done this year. So.
Yeah, the sets are amazing. By the way, 13th Floor, Joey, is the people that run that. They also run that haunted hayride that you've been to in the past in California.
Oh, at the old zoo, the Griffith Park?
I think so. It's like they have, if you go to their website, it's like there's 6 13th floors across the country. There's 2 haunted hay rides, and then there's other brand name haunts.
Called LA Haunted Hayride?
I think so.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The set design was outstanding. You walk in and it's like a 2-story building. You don't go on the second floor though. It's just kind of there. But the one thing that 13th floor had that I didn't see in other haunts were just I think everybody went through Poltergeist this year at Halloween Horror Nights, and they were amazed at those like puppets or animatronic type things that are in the house. And 13th floor has like these 2-story tall animatronics that are just they kick some major ass.
Yeah, 13th floor is like, hey, Universal, hold my beer.
Yeah,
yeah.
Sounds about right.
It's interesting with 13th floor because the animatronics there are used in fairly small spaces. You know, like if you've got a big prop in a wide open room, you know, it kind of loses some of the scale. But when it's like right up on you, they're massive. You know, so and a lot of times when you go to different haunted attractions, and let's say they do have a large animatronic, typically you're looking at it from like far away and being right up on them, and it was really cool. It was really, really good.
Yeah, you turn the corner and there's that one animatronic that's, you know, looming over you, and it's like the WTF BBQ sauce type thing, and I'm like, what is happening? Like,
yeah,
who would have thought that would be in this building?
I'm looking at the website for the hayride, and yeah, it's 13th floor. And the past years that I went to it when I was living in LA, they had some giant animatronics that came super close to you while you're on the tractor. So I have a fairly good idea.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. The only thing that was confusing about 13th floor that wasn't as confusing at Warehouse 31 is that you can look at their website and see what attractions are under the roof. But, you know, I did a video review of 13th floor, and when it came out, I was convinced that there was just 2 haunts because you're going to 2 different buildings or 2 different subsections, I guess, of the building. And I had no idea that there was 3 haunts that were taking place within the site. The theming or knowing like where you were going from one to the other, I was just kind of like lost. It's partially because you're looking at costumes and trying to look at detail while, you know, so much stuff is jumping out at you.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate too, because along with their and I mean, I get it, the no photo policy, the no video policy, but sometimes that's kind of how I bookmark mentally, like where one haunt ends and the other one begins, because like you said in your video, there is no signage at all. The whole thing just runs together. You get a small break kind of in the middle, and it's basically 2 experiences, it feels like.
Yep. It was good. It was reasonably priced. I think, you know, they're actually supposed to have an escape room that's functioning there also, and the escape room wasn't working when I went, and they said that they were working out bugs and it should be up soon. But they are looking to do a Christmas haunt and a Valentine's Day haunt, but they're looking to keep the escape room portion of the building open year-round. So it was good.
Yeah, it was really good.
Warehouse 31, maybe a little better. At least fun factor wise.
Yeah, I mean the 13th floor was all about the set design and the scares. Like there wasn't a lot of fun factor to it, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It just means you go to a certain haunt for certain things. And the Warehouse 31 Unleashed was like an experience. It was just a blast from beginning to end, interacting with all the different characters and even the scarectors and just the way the haunt's constructed. It was a lot of fun. It was probably the most fun I've had doing haunts in a very long time.
Yeah, when I got there, I was like, I got to get there at opening because who knows how busy it's going to be. And of course, I got there and there was like, there was 4 other people that were there with me, so we were like the only 5. And this will be a lesson. So each of these places sell express online. So when you're looking at buying tickets in advance, which I always recommend because they're cheaper online generally, you really didn't need express. So I ended up just kind of bypassing that piece and it went to waste. But I grouped up with the 5 people that I met that were going through at the same time. And it was just a blast. There's things in there that I have generally complained about in the past that like Halloween Horror Nights, like when they make you bend down for the distraction type thing, but there's tunnels to go through. There's a slide that you go on at one point. The one tunnel towards the end, there's a giant rat in the tunnel, and they're like yelling at you like, "I hope you're not afraid of rats." And there's a rat in the tunnel with you. But it was so much fun. I mean, the
real rat?
No, it was like a giant rat, like 3 foot size.
Yeah.
There's 4 different experiences at Warehouse 31. There's Lockdown, which is kind of like a patient zero type of thing for zombies that you're supposed to find the cure. I didn't really see that happening in the house, but I didn't really look. I was, I gotta be honest, like at one point I was like terrified because there was so much stuff coming at me at one time that I was like, I don't know where to look. Mr. Tasty's Meat Factory, which again is another cannibal type thing, but I absolutely love that name. It is, I think it's much better done at Warehouse 31 than it was at Busch Gardens, Tampa, at least for that concept. Really, really fun. Some really great character interactions in there too. Dark Waters, which was kind of a voodoo type of thing. And I gotta call this one thing out that's in Dark Waters. They have this character that will forever be the MVP this year, no matter where else I go, haunt-wise. Frogman, because it's basically like hybrid human reptiles that are in that house because of the black magic or voodoo magic. And this Frogman, came out. They have that element again with like the fog that's lifting with a laser. So it looks like you're going through like a swamp area. And that guy popped out. He didn't scare me. I just could not stop staring at that costume. It was kind of like Gillman, like it just looked awesome. I wish that guy was outside like doing meet and greets and stuff. I loved Frogman. He's my MVP. And then Slaughter Circus, which was another circus type thing, which I don't know what they did on night 2. I know night 1 they brought in clowns from another city up in Savannah. That. Yeah, and those guys messaged me after the fact. One of them was in the video that we shot, dropped an F-bomb, and his joke was like, I guess I got you demonetized now. Ha 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 ha. And I was like, I'll leave it in. It's funny. But those guys were awesome. What an incredible pack of like demonic type clowns for the haunt. But I loved Warehouse 31. I'm not sure that I'll definitely make a trip back to Jacksonville to see them, unless they change up the houses. But I loved Warehouse 31, and I liked 13th Floor. They both have different things to offer, like you said.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one.
For fun factor, I might choose Warehouse 31 again. Although I would be interested in seeing 13th Floor when it has the escape room stuff operational also. That would be interesting.
I may be able to take a trip and try it, but
they're literally 10 minutes apart.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't really do one without doing the others. You might as well just plan on doing both.
Yeah, they are 4 miles within each other.
Yeah, they're super cool. And then you also have a Whataburger there as well, just in case you've never had Whataburger.
In case you want some real horror.
Oh my God! I was super hungry afterwards. I was on my way home from Jacksonville, and it was like a 2.5 hour drive. And I was like, I'll stop at Whataburger. I've never had a Whataburger before. And I was like hungry. I'm like, I just want the triple cheeseburger, and the thing's like 4 pounds. It's the biggest damn fast food burger I've ever had in my life. It was good. I couldn't eat all of it though. Sad.
You did one other haunt while you were on your North Florida tour also, and I'm not sure if you want to talk about that now as a teaser, or you've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about tomorrow because you got your own gig happening that we kind of skipped over. Like
that's all right. I did Torment Factory. I left directly from Sapphire Falls at my convention thing to do Torment Factory. It's like the better part of 2 hours to get to Gainesville. Torment Factory, it's their first year. It's in like a YMCA. I guess the thing was built off-site. I will admit, when I walked through the first time, I was like, I kind of felt like it was like maybe like a community type haunt, but their show lighting and everything like that really pulled it together, and the characters were actually really strong. So I was pretty impressed with the house there. It wasn't all up and running; like they're still building one of their other experiences there. But their escape room as well was a lot of fun. They had a 10-minute escape room, and the serial killer, the main guy, Abraham Gamey, leaves you in a room. And he's like, I forgot some seasoning. I'll be right back. And you got 10 minutes to figure out how to get out. And it's like it's like 12 by 12 room. But it was a lot of fun, and we beat it, so it was good.
Was Tim Tebow there?
Tim Tebow was not there.
It's late, and I have a stupid sense of humor.
It's all good. But I will tell you, the driving from Gainesville to Jacksonville was a nightmare. It was the scariest driving I've ever done in my entire life. And that was an additional scare zone, an additional haunted experience as you drive an hour and a half plus from Gainesville to Jacksonville with no gas stations, no cell phone signals, torrential downpour, and a lightning storm. So I'm like, this is where I die. I die somewhere between Gainesville and Jacksonville. It was horrifying.
That is hilarious. I know Friday night there was not supposed to be any rain over towards like the Jacksonville area or any type of storm, and it did nothing but like lightning out the whole time. And then even when I drove back towards Orlando, it was pouring out. I was like, I don't understand weather here. So to round out the local haunts, I did one other haunt this week in South Florida in Boca Raton that I think you're going to next week.
The weekend after that, because we're going on our multi-state road trip next week.
Okay. So in 2 weeks, you'll be at Enigma Haunt as one of your stops. I went to Enigma Haunt this past Saturday, and it was their opening weekend. I had not been down to Enigma Haunt before, but have seen them when I went to SuperCon a couple of years ago, and saw you talking about them, and saw Palm Beach Happenings talking about them. So I ended up going over to Enigma Haunt with our friends from Palm Beach Happenings, and we did a little lights on tour beforehand, and I'm in the middle of editing a video for this now, so I'll probably be up around the same time as the podcast getting put up. But we couldn't take pictures or video as we're going through because they obviously don't want to spoil things for folks. But Enigma Haunt is one of those places. It started as a mom and pop operation 17 years ago, where they were doing it at their house, and they became fully evolved into what's known as Enigma Haunt today 7 years ago, where they bought a building and they started with one haunt, which was Realms of Terror, and they've since added to that 2 additional haunts. So it takes up 2 floors, and it's 20,000 square feet of haunt space. On the bottom floor, there's 2 haunts that are new this year, I believe. It's Cursed and Twisted Mayhem. Cursed is kind of like a witch doctor-y type of experience, and Twisted Mayhem is a clown experience, which very much like in the style of a carnival. It's not a 3D house, or like there's no crazy color distractions, for the most part with with the different neon colors and stuff. And Realms of Terror is a multi haunt type experience that takes place on the upper floor, and every time that you go from one type of subject matter to another, you go through those inflatable airbags, and it brings you into another realm. Some of the realms included like their version of an evil fairy tale type of experience. There's a mad scientist type of experience. There's Frosty, which is like a Christmas experience. But I will tell you, Enigma Haunt, their slogan is this year, at least in their video, it's hilarious. Their promo reel, it's like, it'll scare the shit out of you, and it literally knocked me on my ass. Like it's scary, and it's another haunt where you're pulsed in. So it's just the 4 of us in the house at the same time, and the characters don't just jump out and yell boo. There's no triggers. There's a lot of character interaction in the house. If the characters know that you're scared, they will follow you through the house, because they know that they have like a good 5 minutes before the next party comes in behind you, and they'll continue to terrorize you. The set design I thought was awesome, but more so, besides the attention to detail within the sets, the makeup and costumes I thought were on par with what we'd see at like a Horror Nights type of event. They were clearly better than a lot of the theme park type stuff that we've seen elsewhere. And it was just a fantastic time. Aside from going to Screamageddon, where it's very raw and, brutal and scary, this is very well confined spaces and some really unexpected stuff, but it was just awesome. What was your experience in the past, Johnny? I know you've been there.
And I had such a great time at Enigma Haunt last year. We were originally supposed to do that and the Fright Nights at the South Florida Fairgrounds, and it had rained that night, and they canceled on us. So I drove the better part of 3 hours down to Boca Raton to do Enigma, and we were there for about an hour. So it's like a 6-hour round trip for like a hour experience just hanging out there, and it was worth it. Like it was kind of I think it was our last week out doing stuff last week before the close of Horror Nights, and it was like the perfect end cap for a season. It felt like a greatest hits, because if you do a good amount of haunts, there are certain themes that you're going to see over and over again. And I thought that Enigma Haunt really encapsulated a lot of different types of themes. And it was scary. And there was some stuff in there that I've never seen before. Like, I've never been in a claustrophobia tunnel and halfway through had a scare. Like, it was just crazy. It was just crazy stuff that they do. And did they have any kids working this year?
They may have. And I know on their fact sheet they talk about, like, that there are some kids that work in the event that are... Their parents are also working the event, right. So they have, some professional people that are working there. Professional meaning, like I think like lawyers and other like white collar type day job folks that work the event, and then they also have their kids working the event also.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. They just throw everything at you. It's all Enigma Haunt's all about the haunt curveballs, man.
Yeah, there were a couple things in there that I've never seen before, and I'm not going to spoil it for folks, but
yeah.
There were things that happened that, I can't unsee. And, Mary and I were talking about it last night again, and I was like, man, it was just cool. It was just super cool. And
they're great people.
Yeah, we spoke to the owners and to the people that do the set building and the actors, and, it's just so cool. I'm anxious, if it wasn't so far for me to get to, I would go back again this year. I'd really like to get to Fright Night, so it would make sense to make, to kind of hit it as a double feature. But man, I only wish you could make this, you could shrink the state so that, at least the people from, like Paul would, when he comes to town and everything, we could shoot over there and make it, not a 3.5 hour trip or something, or 3+ hours to get there. So
yeah, that's why I string a lot of them together. Like I stayed in a hotel after I did Torment Factory to do the Jacksonville haunts, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm actually going down on the 19th to do the Legends of Oblivion in Fort Myers, and then I'm gonna stay in a hotel and then shoot over to the that area haunts with Enigma and Fright Nights.
Yeah,
it's the only way to do it because I can't do all that driving in one night.
Yeah, it's crazy. And while you were eating your Whataburger, I think that's when we traded messages, because I was at Rock and Roll Ribs eating some Iron Maiden barbecue.
Nice, jelly.
So a couple last straggler things. Hellfest the movie came out last week, and I'm not sure if anybody else went to go see it except for me so far.
I saw it actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it the other day.
It's on the list.
So, I just want to... I think in a previous episode of Four Hauntsmen, I had said that I thought it was filmed in a Six Flags. I was wrong, I think.
It was filmed in Atlanta on sets, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the movie, it pretty much... It's obvious it's all filmed on sets. There's no, like, wide camera angles of anything in the background. But, it's... For what it's worth, if you're a fan of Halloween Horror Nights or any of the haunts, one, you're going to hate the cast in this film because they do all the stuff in haunts that you hate. When people like touching things and climbing on things and touching scare actors, like they do all the no-nos. But it is still, while I didn't love the film, I enjoyed it as a fan of haunts. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're one of us. If you're a fan of haunts, it is a generic slasher set amongst basically a local haunt type thing. Like they call it a traveling haunt park with multiple events. Now, it's amazing looking. It's certainly something that I've never been to of anything on that scale. But it's still a fun movie. I enjoyed it. It's not something I'm gonna like see every year, but I still enjoyed it.
I liked it. I mean, it's like you said. We did a review for the channel, and I had said, same things. Like, kind of towards the end, I really wished that like all the kids were gonna die. Because they were so unlikable at times. And then I felt bad because some people that worked on the movie commented on the video. It wasn't just like a couple here and there. Like, people sent me messages like, oh, I was one of the actors in the movie. And, this was one of the best casts that I've worked with so far. And the premise is fun. Chris Stuckman on his channel did a much harsher review because he had just come off of going to Horror Nights in Orlando. And he was like, this is the most unrealistic thing you'll ever see because there's nobody else in the houses with these people and there's no conga lines and stuff like that. And
that's true. However, it's not Horror Nights level event. But I will say, if you're looking for something a bit more I don't want to say enjoyable. This is a fun slasher film, but if you're looking for something with a similar theme, I recommend checking out The House is October Built, parts 1 and 2. The majority of those films are filmed in real haunts. They showcase actual events, haunted events, and incorporate a movie into those, with that in mind. And I genuinely recommend both of those films.
As I stare lovingly at my full-size House is October Built 2 poster in my studio.
There you go.
I love that movie, man. The first one just... Oh my! It's probably the best horror movie I'd seen in a very long time. Man, at the end of the first one, man, that heart was pounding. And then they had the second one came out, which is nice when you don't discover a movie right away.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this movie's awesome. Oh shit, there's a sequel coming out.
Yeah.
Kind of like Hell House LLC.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Hell House LLC. The sequel just came out. I haven't seen it yet, but again, legit. Similar thing. A haunt gone wrong. So actually, I haven't seen the sequel, but the first one's good. Check that one out too.
Yeah. So Hellfest. I'm not sure how long it's going to last in the movie theaters, but
it's not doing well.
I think it also was at least the poster that was outside my theater said it was not rated still. So it was kind of weird.
Yeah, that is weird because it's pretty much an R rating. There's nothing. I mean, there's some. I will say there is some decent gore. Like the first couple of kills are really imaginative and cool, and then like for the last couple of kills, they just go generic with it. But you know what? It's a fun horror film. If you like haunts, you like horror, check it out. I think it's fun. It's not going to be in theaters long, but this is the season that you'll want to see it. And so while we're talking about this season, we've recorded now 3 weeks in a row, but the season for us, I mean, there's, like Kyle said at the beginning of the show, there's still a month left. So why don't we just briefly, I know we're going on long here, but maybe touch on some of the events you guys have, or we all have, in the next couple weeks. Joey, you still with us?
Yeah.
What do you got coming up?
More Horror Nights, but then Warner Brothers, and I don't know, like what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah, I am excited to hear about horror. Warner Brothers, the Horror Made Here event. It kicks off this coming weekend, doesn't it? Like first weekend?
Yeah, and it looks like they're doing a media night before that. One of the guys behind...
in 2 days.
Yeah, because one of the guys I follow, he's freelance now, but he was in art and design for a while, and he's out there right now setting stuff up, so I got high hopes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that, seeing the coverage of that event. I need to get caught up on, this past weekend was the Queen Mary Dark Harbor grand opening weekend, and I want to see some of the stuff from there too. Let's
move to California for next year.
Yeah, we might need to for 6 weeks. Well, what about you, Kyle? What do you have coming up in the next couple weeks?
This weekend is Netherworld in Stone Mountain, Georgia. So we're going to the home of AJ Styles. I'm really looking forward to that, because Netherworld, I think, if you watched our channel, like we've talked about trying to go there for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's been a swing and a miss, and it's happening this week. And then after that, it's Fright Fest at Six Flags, Georgia. So we'll be able to experience. The one thing, tie back to Hellfest, there's a Hellfest experience at many of the Six Flags parks, but not the one in Georgia and not the one where Paul visited this past week in Maryland.
But, I saw footage of the house, at least the one in California, and it looks awesome. I really wish they had it closer.
Yeah, and some people have commented on the Hellfest review video that we've done and said that house was the shining spot for Six Flags this year in the parks that they've gone to. But that's what we have on deck immediately. We also have a Petrified Forest that we're trying to find time to get out to. Also, those are our favorite people out in Altamont Springs. And more Halloween Horror Nights. I think for everyone that bugs us, by the time that this posts, I think Joey and I may be back there on Wednesday, so you can try to find us like an Easter egg through the fog.
Johnny, I know you have. You said you have a multi-state tour coming up.
Yeah, this weekend on Thursday we do Screamageddon, which just give me your thumbs up or thumbs down with Screamageddon this year, Kyle.
I loved it. There's a new attraction.
I've always had a good time there.
Yeah, there's a new attraction at Screamageddon. God, you caught me off guard here. Hold on.
Is it the zombie paintball one or the?
No, the zombie paintball is amazing. By the way, that's an upcharge. We talked about this last week too, but the zombie paintball we had a ton of fun at. But Demon's Revenge is a new house that's kind of sandwiched in between Infected and Deadwoods.
Oh, cool!
Oh my God, it's so good. Nice. It is so good. Yeah,
I'm excited about Screamageddon this year. Then we're doing a Petrified Forest on Friday, and then we're doing Sir Henry's and Ominous Descent, the I-4 Fear Park on Saturday, and then our road trip. We're going to Netherworld. Then we're going to go up to Ohio and do Haunted Hoochie. Then we're going to go to Michigan, where I'm originally from, and do Erebus and Hush up there. And on the way back, we're going to hit the Dent Schoolhouse and then maybe something else. And then the weekend after that, we're doing South Florida. Yeah.
We'll do some office work while we're talking.
Yep, so that's my plans for the next couple weeks. I have a huge spreadsheet. It has lots of multicolors on it. And as of our episode tomorrow night on HauntScene Live, that'll be our halfway point in the season, which is crazy because it feels like it just started.
Yep. So for people that are not in tune with HauntScene, and I know, I couldn't talk you guys up anymore, but with the channel stuff at least and on Twitter, but anybody that's listening, you guys got to go to Facebook, follow HauntScene, go to the Facebook Live events that they're running. It's every Tuesday, I believe now, right, Johnny? At 8 o'clock.
Yep.
It is hands down the slickest production you're going to see related to anything, whether it's haunt related or theme park related. I mean, it's better than your 10 o'clock news program, and it's all haunt related. It's super slick, and it's really fun to even just sit back and watch, and not interact. But you can interact. There's a whole chat room of people that are haunt lovers also, and Johnny's been doing some giveaways here and there, and there's it's just an awesome way to bring the community together. I can't say enough about it. You guys got to check it out.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm gonna cry. No, it's our fourth season. It's a lot of button pushing, but I'm very, very happy with the show. It all kind of started this season with our intro, which is just phenomenal. I don't deserve that intro, and yeah, we're having a really good season this year, and I'm hoping we keep it going.
Yeah, it's awesome. Love watching you on the Facebook screen, and Melissa, fantastic also. Just great stuff to check out.
Yeah, I love being able to show people stuff, like the pictures, and I'm starting to get into more of like the splicing in the video and that kind of thing. So it's like a TV show.
It is. It's super cool, and you can watch older episodes on replay on the Facebook channel also, or Facebook page. So,
and we also upload them to YouTube. So after they're done, if there's any glitches, I clean them up and then I upload them to YouTube, and so they're there as well.
There you go. All right. We did a giveaway, or we talked about a giveaway last week for Screamageddon for tickets. We had 2 pairs of tickets to give away, and we drew the winners earlier tonight. I think we're going to be in touch with folks at some point over the next day or so via direct message with directions on how to use the codes. Scrambling to find out who the winners were again. We're doing it live. Raul Deriva has won a pair of tickets to Screamageddon, and Sandy Lemery. So you guys are going to find a DM in your Twitter account from Four Hauntsmen with a couple of codes each for Screamageddon. And like I was saying before, when Johnny asked about it, Joey went to Screamageddon also and had another awesome run.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Better this year than last year?
I still miss that hayride, but it's weird because the one I liked the least last year was actually my favorite this year. So
Deadwoods.
I'd say they're Deadwoods is my favorite this time. The new one's really good. I like the zombie paintball. I like hayrides. So, and it was a good one.
And for those, I think we talked about this last week. There are some pieces from that hayride that are repurposed in other attractions at Screamageddon this year. But in any event, we have 2 winners for 2 pairs of, or a pair of tickets each, and we'll get that stuff out to you. And anything else, Paul? What's next for you?
Well, I will be at Halloween Horror Nights next week. If you're listening to this, not the weekend of the 4th, but the weekend of the 11th. I will be at Halloween Horror Nights. So if you see me out there, come up, say hi. Love to see you guys. Love to talk to you guys. Really looking forward to finally getting out to the event.
It's cool. I got to show you this detail that's on the monkey display in the Chucky zone. You got to look really close at this one barrel.
Oh, okay. All right, guys.
All right. I think that does it for this week.
Hey,
thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. You are welcome anytime.
Go back to the bench.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. You're welcome anytime. And we genuinely appreciate having you on, and we'll be tuning in. I'm not sure if I'll be able to tune in live tomorrow, but I'll definitely be checking out the show again.
Cool.
And that does it for us. So,
all right, everyone.
Enjoy. We'll be back in 3 weeks.
Hey, before we go to @4Hauntsmen on Twitter. Make sure you're following us there. But thank you guys again. We will talk to you next time.